Good morning. Today is March 17th. It's Saturday. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. If you're new, thanks for checking me out. And if you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back. I've been looking forward to hanging out with you guys for a couple of weeks, and I've been really excited to share with you all the stuff I've had going on in the past couple of weeks. I think that this could be one of those no fiber art left behind videos because I feel like I'm doing all the things. Okay, so, sorry I did not do a bonus video like I hoped I would during spring break. I was so tired and kind of run down, and it was really cold and just, I felt blah. So I didn't want to be blah on here with you. So I just took the week easy. I had some work I had to do, and I just sort of needed the downtime. But I'm feeling better, back to work. The students were good for a couple of days, and then they kind of petered out and they're exhausted again. So the week off bought them a couple of days of energy, and now they're all tired. And they came back, many of them very, very tan, and the rest of us not so much. Thank you so much to all of you who left such nice comments on my last video. I really appreciated all the nice things that you said. All the encouragement. You guys are just such a great community, and you're so supportive, and thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you to Donna Ray of Flannel Jammies Farm for the charming mention. Donna Ray, you are such a nice person, and I think that's like the best farm name I've ever heard of. Like Flannel Jammies Farm, like who wouldn't want to be there? And I have to say that pajama time is my favorite time of day. And sometimes if I've had a bad day, regardless of what time of day it is, when I come home, it is pajama time. Yeah. Thank you, Donna Ray. Check her out if you haven't. I'm sure you probably have because you've probably heard of her. She is well known across the Flosstube, but in case you have not, if you've been living under a rock, go check out Donna Ray. Also, Jan Hicks. If you have not seen her amazing Fair Isle blanket, you need to check that out. Her most recent video, she was knitting some Fair Isle hexagons into a blanket, and I can't even imagine. Like, I was a pretty obsessed knitter. I have been over the years, and I've been pretty hardcore and willing to take on big projects, but that's really epic, Jan. So props to you. It's beautiful. Keep going. It's awesome. Thank you to Gulf Coast Stitcher for your kind words about my use of color. I really appreciate it. I love playing with color, so thanks. That was really nice. And I wanted to shout out, I'm still kind of learning what Flosstube to watch, what's out there, and finding new videos. And one new to me, though not new, Flosstube creator is TopKnot Stitcher, and she's just a lot of fun and really enthusiastic. And so I've watched, I think, her two most recent videos and really enjoyed them. So I wanted to shout her out. Okay, I'm going to pause for just a second. Okay, I'm back. I had to change a setting on my computer. So, wow, there's a lot of cool stuff that just came out at Market, and I didn't even know I wanted it. I'd seen some previews, and there were some cool things, but there were more cool things than I was expecting, and some stuff didn't, I guess, really get on my radar until the videos started coming out of Market. Thanks to all the people who took the time to make videos. I think Donna Ray included some videos at the end of one of her most recent Flosstubes, and Teresa Kitten Stitcher had a video, and Fiber Talk, the interviews that they did. I think I'm missing some people, but I really enjoyed seeing the displays at Market, and I was really happy to see that Fiber Talk had interviewed, I think her name's Chrisanne. She's Tell an Emblem. I've come across her designs, and I love them, and I saw that she had some new Market releases with cardinals, and I was like, oh my god. So thanks 123 Stitch for enabling me. So I went to 123 Stitch, and they had them, and I placed an order for the cardinal pieces. So they're going to be here next week. My next video, I'll show you those. And I also had to get a Brenda Gervais. I mean, there's so many cute ones that she had released, but one in particular caught my eye. So yes, I have some market haul coming. Okay, so I am so excited to show you my fully finished spring by the Cricut collection. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, I showed you that I had finished stitching spring, and I told you that I was going to go to like Hobby Lobby and antique stores and just see what I could find. So if you've seen this on Instagram, sorry, you get to see it again. Here it is. I'm so pleased. It almost doesn't fit. There we go. That's better. So I found this frame at Hobby Lobby, and this was in the wall frame section at Hobby Lobby, and it's called a floating frame. So the idea is that it has 2 panes of glass in it. I'll bring it up close so you can see it. It has 2 panes of glass, and you can fit 3 4x6 photos kind of spaced out between the panes of glass. And I was actually contemplating this frame for my welcome winner by the Drawn Thread. And my boyfriend's like, try the spring design. And I was like, that's not going to fit on there. And sure enough, he was right, and it looked way better. So he knew what he was talking about. I'll show you the back in case you're interested. So all you do is flip the little thingies. You pop this little white part out, and then you would pop the glass out. So I did. And then I put my piece in, put these back on. It's like done and dusted, super easy. Couldn't possibly ask for anything easier. And then I went to my local quilt shop, Stitch Your Art Out, to try and find some fabric to go inside here, because I thought about just framing the piece with the fabric I had here that this is stitched on, the linen, but it just needed a bit of pop, because this is kind of a paler design and it just needed a bit of pop. So I went there and I auditioned a ton of fabrics, and then this was really like the last thing I possibly thought could work, this batik, but it worked. So I used Vanna's tutorial on how to do a flat fold, and I just didn't make a flat fold. So let me pause to Donna. I doubt you watch my videos, but maybe your ears are burning right now. Thank you so much for the finishing videos that you've made, for the finishing tutorials that you've posted on your blog. I am eternally grateful to you for that. So thank you, Donna. So I am like thrilled with how that turned out, and I think that I might stitch summer and use that same frame. There's also a brown version of that frame, like a brown stain, so you could pick it up and paint it whatever color you wanted to, and just watch for like I got mine 40% off, but then like the next week they had it 50% off, so whatever. But there's sales, there's ways to save money. Okay, I sewed some more eggs. I showed you some of the sewn eggs last week, and I finished a few more. 4 more, to be precise. So here is one. These were a free pattern from Retromama. I'll put another link in the comments section below the video so that you can check this out. These are really fast and fun to make. I think these are the correct ones that I hadn't shown last week. I've got them in a dough bowl with a couple of bunnies that I knitted, and they look really cute in there. So I was pleased to get those done. They were really fast. Another big finish for me is my wool applique egg. This is like this, well, okay, it's not the size of my head, but it turned out bigger than I thought it would. This is by Eweniversity. Okay, and I was doing this blue egg here, but I took some liberties. I left out some of the French knots, and wherever there were French knots, I put beads, and I added some beads here on the seams. These were really enjoyable to stitch, or this was really enjoyable to stitch. And so I finished embroidering the piece and then took it to my sewing machine. And because I just sewn all those fabric eggs I showed you, it was so easy to sew this. Like I didn't even have to think about it. Like I knew exactly what to do. Then when I turned it, so turning it right side out with all of these beads was a challenge, and I had to go slowly and carefully, and it probably took me like 5 minutes, honestly, of just kind of slowly tugging it through the hole. So one option is to just do what I did and just be really slow and careful, or maybe leave a little bit bigger hole to turn the egg the right side out. And just make sure you really secure your beads well. I didn't have any problems, but I was a little nervous that something was going to break off. But, you know, you could re-sew them back on. It's not that big of a deal. So stuffing this took a while because it is actually, I mean, this is quite large. And I realized after I saw how big it was, I was like, is this supposed to be that big? Did I do something wrong? And then I saw in the pattern that, you know, the height is like 4.5 inches, which is about what this is. So no, I didn't do anything wrong. I just didn't read. Oops. And so then I put these stitches along here. Is this a feather? I can't remember. Whatever stitch this is. This was really fun to do, actually. I really enjoyed it, and it went pretty quickly. And then I added the beads. This is one of those situations where you get like a bead multi-pack and you regret it because you have to sort out all, like, and a lot of the beads look kind of the same. You have to sort them out. That's what I did. And the beads were from Frank's. Do you remember Frank's Nursery and Crafts from like a million years ago when I was a kid? They were around and they've been gone for a long time, at least where I'm from. But I had an old container of Frank's beads, so I'm glad I finally put those to use from the 90s or whenever I bought them. You know, the opening for turning, like stitching that up was a bit tricky. Unlike fabric, you know, quilting cotton, which will keep kind of the folds so that you can figure out kind of what your stitching line is, you know, there really wasn't anything there for this. And so it was a bit of a struggle, but, you know, not really a big deal if you're covering this up with embroidery anyway. So I really enjoyed this project. I think I might like to try reducing the size on my copier and then make another one that's smaller and see how I like that as well. I think I might do another one in April if I have time. So really recommend the pattern, recommend trying the beads. They're really fun. What's next? My towels are all done. Okay, so this is my jade towel. I added a hanging tag to this one, and I got labels. I'm like a real person with like a real label. So it says Luminous Fiber Arts. This is the wounded towel that I accidentally cut, and I'll show you. Right. You can't see it that well. Actually, after I washed this, you really couldn't see it, but this is where it was injured. So I'm going to, after encouragement from friends and family, I'm going to try selling my towels. So my towels, I'll be posting them tomorrow, and I'll post them on Instagram. If you're interested in purchasing, I'll put the instructions on the post, but you would just need to let me know that you wanted to purchase the towel on the post. And then all the towels will be $30 each, but the injured towel will be $20, and it does not have a hanging tag. So this is Dusty Blue. And I'm just going to give this a try. Like, I don't know if people want to buy my towels, but I'll just try it and see if people are interested. If there's enough interest, then I'll see about either opening my own shop at some point on my own site or doing an Etsy shop at some point in the future. But I just thought I'd give it a try. I was kind of nervous about it, but then, you know, a friend told me, like, if you keep waiting for everything to be perfect and just right, then you'll never do it. And I was like, well, that's true. So I'm just going to try. This is like a spring green. And then we have the red. So they're all 100% cotton from different sources, depending on which yarns I used. A lot of them are from the US cotton. Some of it is from Brazil, another manufacturer from Canada. I'll put that information on the towels when I send them out. And so the cost again would be $30 for the three, the red, spring green, and the jade, and then the shipping would be on top of that. And then the dusty blue would be $20, and then the shipping on top of that. And you would just comment on my Instagram post, and then I will PayPal, if you give me your PayPal address, then I'll PayPal invoice you and send them out. Okay, thanks. Oh, no, one other thing, and I'll include this as well. So you do not want to use fabric softener when you wash these towels. Really, when you wash any towels, you are going to reduce the absorbency of the towel. These towels are very absorbent and they work great, but if you put a product like that, even apparently dryer sheets can reduce the absorbency of your towels. So I actually haven't used fabric softener for years because I'm really sensitive to smells. But that's just something you should know. And, you know, one thing about like why I wanted to weave, or what I've enjoyed about weaving, and why I want to share my towels with other people. For me, there's nothing like a handwoven towel and walking into my kitchen and seeing this beautiful piece of fabric to dry my hands on or to dry dishes with. There's just something awesome about like the patterning, the cheerful colors. And I was telling my mom about this a while ago, and then, you know, I had given her some towels, and she finally got one out a while ago, and she was like, you know, I didn't really think that I would feel that way, but you're actually right. Like, it makes me happy using it. So, you know, for me, part of the purpose of weaving, sharing my weaving with people, selling my weaving, is that hopefully the handmade, handwoven object will brighten your day. That's my goal. Okay, so new starts. I've got some. So I've got day 7 of the Cricut Collection's 12 days. This is the Swan is Swimming at Last. Finally making an appearance. Looks really cute. The pattern is on green fabric, but I'm low on green fabric, so this one ended up on blue. I'll bring it a little closer so you can see better. So I just kind of need to fill in the white, and then there's like a bottom area that I'll fill in as well, but I think it's super pretty. That's from this leaflet here. I'm really looking forward. I've already done the cow, as you'll recall if you watched my first video. I'm really looking forward to this woodpecker down here. I think it's going to be so cute. And then I'll have, I don't know, 2 or 3 more to do after that, and I'm done. And my other new start. Okay, guys, so I have been stitching on 28 count for years. And right before I stopped cross-stitching, I was like, I need to, you know, step up my game, try 32 count, because I liked seeing the project people were doing on 32 count. But I didn't try it. And then when I got back into cross-stitching, I was talking with Liana, and she was saying that there's a bit of an adjustment period. And then Liana's on Instagram. There's a bit of an adjustment period, and then you just get used to it. So in the fall, I tried stitching on 32 count, and there really was an adjustment period. So it took me a bit of the project, but then I was comfortable with it. And so I expected, I've been wanting to try 36 count and 40 count because so many people like 40 count. I like small things, and I also really like the idea of using only one strand of floss. So I finally got up the courage to do it, trying it on an ornament, and I love it. And it didn't even take like more than, I don't know, 1 stitch, 1 X, and I was like, yes. There was no adjustment phase. It was just yes. So here we are. This is a little partridge. This is not part of a 12 days series. It's just part of a Christmas series in general. So this is 40 count, Newcastle linen from 123 Stitch. And this project comes from this book. I mentioned it in, I think, my last video. Simply Red. This is by Imaginating. So this is the partridge down here, and I'm not sure when I'll stitch the rest, if I'll stitch them soon or not, but I'll finish the partridge, and yeah, 40 count all the way. It's awesome. So I've been loving this, and I thought it would be hard to see, but it's actually like not. I don't know why, but I'm really happy. My stitches look so much better, and it's so tiny and cute, so it's just awesome. And I have to take advantage while my vision is good, right? Like, yeah, I know. Okay. So those are my new starts that are also whips. Then we have this whip. Probably looks a little different than last time you saw it. So I had those sewing days with my friend, and I finished the top row, which was row 1 during those sewing days, and I started row 7 down here. So I took rows 1, 2, 3, 4 off the wall, and I put rows 5 and 6 on, and then I'm starting row 7 here, and then I'll need to do 8 and 9. So I'm sorry that there's no like reveal of all of that together, but basically there's only so much room on my wall, and I need to keep things like easy for me to reach. So once upon a time when I set up this design wall and I didn't have a floor loom and a second sewing machine set up, there was plenty of room for this kind of thing, but not anymore. So I have to like kind of adjust to the fact that like my sewing machines have moved around. Now they're both set up simultaneously, which is the best thing ever, because then I can zigzag on the one machine and I can piece on the other, and I can quilt, and I can just have them both up. It's awesome. And having the loom in here, we're all one happy family. I love it. But it just means there's like less space on this wall now because there's stuff here. So that's going well. And my goal, which I think is really unrealistic, is I think I mentioned that I'm going to a retreat, and that's like the first weekend in April. It would be awesome if I could have all the blocks cut out for the rest of the quilt, which that would be, let's see, 24? No, 20. I think there's probably only like 21 days till that retreat. I'm not sure, I haven't checked. But I think it's about 3 weeks. So even if I'm trying to cut out a block a day, I'm just not sure that's actually going to happen. But I could probably get close to 21 or 20. We will see. And I'll just take all my fabric with me that I can, and I'll just keep cutting out whatever I don't get done. But boy, that sewing weekend, 2 days of working on this only, I was like really kind of tired. And so I've been taking a break from it. I mean, yeah, I just needed a break. So I realized that may happen. It's like I'm going to get there on a Thursday, and then I'm going to be there Friday and all of Saturday, and then half of Sunday. It's probable that I will need breaks from this. And so I'm going to have to bring probably 1 to 2 other quilt projects, and maybe some cross stitch for when I need a break from my sewing machine. Maybe that crochet afghan that I showed you in my last video. Other stuff's going to have to come along because I don't want to like completely burn out on this and have that be the only thing I can work on and just kind of be flopped over my sewing machine all weekend. Yeah, so that's one of my whips, and it's coming along really nicely. Like, I think it's going to be fabulous, and I'm really excited about it. But yeah, I just have to keep going. That was weird. My screen just blacked out. What else? Okay. Since I finished my Easter egg, I'm still doing this kind of Woolly Wednesday thing. And I worked a little bit on Fill Your Heart. All I did was a bit of embroidery stitching on the green leaves and on the base of this flower here. So just a little bit. I mean, I had a couple hours on Wednesday, so that's my Woolly Wednesday project. You can hashtag Woolly Wednesday with me on Instagram and show your projects. I'll check them out. I don't know if I remember to follow the tag. If I didn't, I will. That way I can see what you're working on. So if you've got some kind of wool project, wool applique project that you're working on and you want to work on it on Wednesdays and hashtag Woolly Wednesday, I'll put the wording at the bottom. This is designed once again by Bonnie Sullivan, All Through the Night. Also, not that this is especially exciting, but the polar bear sweater has a sleeve, a tiny sleeve now. Hopefully there'll be another tiny sleeve soon and a finished polar bear sweater. Pam Brackett asked me on an earlier video if I would show the back of my punch needle project and how it attached to the chalkboard piece. So yes, I will do that now. Okay, so basically, I hot glued some washers, stuck on with hot glue some magnets. Voila. Easy peasy. I went back to Home Goods the other day. They had this in red. So pretty in red. And they had one exactly the same size turned this way. And it was white. And I got that one. I couldn't justify getting both, but I could justify getting one. So now I have one that's going this way as well with the top up here. So I have to find something to make for it. What else? Let's talk about from the archives, then I'll talk about haul, and then I'll talk a little bit about weaving. Okay, so from the archives. I, in a previous cross-stitching fanaticism, was a really big fan of Margaret Sherry and her cute little kitties and fat animals. I have so many Margaret Sherry charts that I have a file folder just for Margaret Sherry. So there's a Prairie Schooler folder, there's a Cricket Collection folder, and there's a Margaret Sherry folder. So let's check out some of my From the Archives projects. This little kitty. This is the one I've been talking about that I need to finish, but I just haven't found the right thing, so this kitty just keeps waiting to be finished and keeps not getting finished. I stitched this a long time ago. I don't even know when. 12 years, 13, who knows? Quite a while. This one is called Potpourri, and if you've been following me on Instagram, you know that I recently finally fully finished this into this version. This is a piece from Michael's on the back here, and it was metal, so I just put some magnets on the back of the brown piece and magnetized it, and had a little button and bow. Thanks again, Donna, for the bow tutorials. So this little kitty in the daffodil makes me really happy. I mean, really, come on. It's a cute kitty in a pot with a daffodil. What could be better? And then this is actually the first one I stitched. I think this is like 14 or 16 count Aida, I'm not sure. And I had it framed. This is, I think, called Dog's Dinner. And this is from 2004. It says it on the back, so that's how I know. Been a while, huh? This is like a early out of college piece for me. So I thought I'd show you some of the charts that I have. Back when I lived in Michigan still with my family, the local shop there, which I miss dearly, it's the owner had some illness and she retired, but she was wonderful. The shop was wonderful, and she would get a lot of Margaret Sherry patterns in. And then I think Margaret Sherry had some kind of a falling out with, is it Witchelt maybe? Heritage? Heritage. I don't remember the circumstances, but as far as I know, like, you can only find her designs really on some of the UK cross-stitch magazines, like Cross Stitch Crazy, I think. And you can't really, as far as I know, in the US get her charts just by themselves unless you're on eBay buying old ones. So these are ones that I bought years ago, back when you still could buy them here. There's a lot of cute animals. So we have cute little mouse. Cole Purritt. predicament, perpendicular, perplexed. Can you tell I like cats? Delightful. Caterflies. Aww. They're so chubby. Safe and sound. Not sure I'll actually stitch this one, but I'll hold on to it. Small talk. Mabel and Mouse. And then the ones I showed you are in a different folder, like already stitched folder. But I think it's Potpourri, Dog's Dinner, and then I don't remember which this one's called. I have to look it up I can put it in my comments. So there was one chart I really wanted, and it was even at a local needlework shop, well, quasi-local to me. I saw it and it was called Calendar Cats, and I really wanted it. I don't know, it was like $35 or something, but I just didn't want to spend $35, and I didn't get it. And then, you know, Margaret Sherry Patterns virtually disappeared, and then you could only get it on eBay for $1 million, and now you can't even get it on eBay. So that's the one that got away. I'd be curious to know, what's your one that got away? Is there a chart that you saw that you had the opportunity to buy and you wanted it, but you talked yourself out of it and then you didn't get it? Another one that was almost the one that got away is that, I think it's called Joyeux Noel by Blackbird Designs, the Cardinal. So when that was out in the earlier book, there were several times where I almost bought it and I was like, I don't want to spend $25 because I like this design the most. I don't think I'd stitch anything else in this book. So I felt like I couldn't really justify it. And then once I got back into cross stitch and I would see that Cardinal pop up, I'm like, I have to have the book. I don't even care. I will pay $25, except that I would have to pay like $1 million because the book had gone out of print. And I was so sad until I found out that it was a new book. Thank God. And I did not hesitate to buy it this time. I didn't care what else was in the book, though there are other nice things that I will probably stitch. I didn't care. I just needed the darn Cardinal. So that was the one that almost got away. And then we have the Calendar Cats. So the Calendar Cats were all dressed in different things for each month of the year, and they were all in one chart. And I let it get away. I don't know if I would honestly stitch it. It would be a lot of stitching. I would probably stitch them separately and put them each up separately. But those cats were a lot of stitching. So it's something that I would just like to have it even. Not necessarily to stitch, but to have with the option that I might stitch it sometime. Maybe someday it will find its way to me. Okay, so that was my From the Archives little trip down memory lane with Margaret Sherry. Love Margaret Sherry. Her stuff's so cute. What did I say I was going to do next? Oh, haul. I didn't write it down. That was a mistake. So over spring break, I did have a good spring break. Thank you to all the nice people who wished me a good spring break. Even though I was really tired, like I just needed the break, so it was good. I had thought that I would check out a couple needlework shops. I didn't get over to Philadelphia. The weather was sketchy, and I was tired, so we stuck around closer to home and went to Lewisburg, which is where Bucknell is. And close to Lewisburg, there's a needlework shop, and I think I mentioned in my last video that it had changed hands. So I wanted to see the new version of it because the previous owner was going to keep the framing part of the shop, and then the new owner was going to buy out her inventory and move into a new building down the street so that they could still kind of send framing up to the previous owner, but the new owner was going to be in a new location, and she was going to have like a gallery and a cafe. So I went, and man, that building is really cool. They have a cool spot, like hardwood floors, built-in stuff in the walls, like built-in cabinets and drawers and things. I don't remember what the building was originally. They have like a cafe area because at one point before it became this, it was a cafe. And so, you know, pretty much what she's got right now is the old inventory with a few new things. The new Little House Needleworks designs, the Christmas ones that have been coming out, she's got those. She's got some nice little displays. She's got a selection of frames, small selection of stitching fabric, and kind of a medium-sized, smallish selection of embroidery floss. Number of Lizzie Kates. If you're panicking about Lizzie Kate, then you might want to call. So this is the business card. It's called Antique Thimble. It's just outside of Lewisburg. Sorry, this is really hard to read. I guess they're saying it's technically in Mifflinburg, but it's right by Lewisburg. The cafe's not open yet. They don't know exactly when it will open. They're waiting to be inspected so that they can. And the gallery, they have just like a little bit of ceramics right now. So if you're in the area, give them some business, help them get going. And I was happy to do that as well. I know Helen, East Coast Crafter, will be relieved that I finally bought this so I can stop telling her how much I want to buy it and haven't bought it yet. Fresh Eggs Farm. I kept watching her stitch it, and every time she'd post, I'd be like, oh, I want that. And so now, Helen, I'll stop bugging you. And a couple of drawn thread pieces that I wanted. Deck the Halls. And Halloween Welcome. Awesome. I love Halloween. Oh, so awesome. I can't wait. I'll probably start stitching Halloween this summer, if not sooner. So that was my haul from that shop. I also went to do some antique shopping, which was fun. Lewisburg has maybe like 3 or 4 different antique places, and they're huge. Like, you can get lost in them. I did not, because I've kind of figured my way around the biggest one. But if you're in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, and for any reason, go check out the Needlework shop and go do some antiquing. Then I had an order from 123 Stitch, which I've had like a bad order experience online recently, but it's just been like one. Like 123 Stitch, by the way, is awesome. So they like make up for any bad experiences because they're so fast and they're so good. They respond right away. They're just great. I've had a number of very good experiences. So 123 Stitch is one of them. I got some size 26 needles and some 36 count linen to stitch vintage birds. This was on my radar after seeing Lisa Kindred Stitcher share this in a video, and I was like, man, I want that. And then I've seen some other people doing it on Instagram. Kim Goldman. I can't remember. Trisha, were you doing this too? I'm not sure. But finally, I just couldn't take it anymore. It was too awesome to not stitch it. And so when it came back into stock, I leapt at the chance to buy it. And I also got June. I love the colors in this. And every time I see just a picture of it or anyone working on it, I think how beautiful it is. So I ordered that. And a confession, I have more haul on order from 123 Stitch. Okay, so is that everything? I think so. Yes, I hope. I've got, at the end, I thought you might be interested in seeing a little bit of what my process is as I go from the start to the finish of a weaving project. And so this morning, I wound a new warp for a project. And so I'm going to, at the end of this video, add in another video showing you how I measure out my yarn. And there's a lot of math involved, but once you kind of do the same type of project with the same type of yarn over and over again, the math becomes very simple. You are just taking into account things like, well, how many of this am I making? How long does it need to be? How long do the hems need to be? Because I'm usually making towels. How wide do I want it to be? And then you have to factor in the shrinkage that will happen between when you originally set it on your loom, and then as you start to weave the pattern, it's going to start to pull in. And then after you take it off the loom and you throw it in the washer and dryer, you have more drawn and shrinkage. So my very first towel that I did, like, and I just completely went on my own without following a pattern, turned out to be like the size of a placemat. I'll have to show that. I should have brought it, but I'll show it in a future video. It's really funny. That's a good lesson in how that happens. So I've learned. And anyway, so I figure out like how many yards I need and how many ends or threads I need across the loom in order to make a project, and then I have to measure it out. So the video is just a little explanation of what I do in order to measure out my yarn. So that's the first step after doing the math. Math is step 1, and then measuring is step 2. Thanks so much for stopping by. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm posting almost every day or pretty regularly on Instagram. I'm Luminous Fiber Arts on Instagram. Thanks for taking the time today to hang out and visit. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. Take care. Good morning. I thought you might like to learn a little bit about the weaving process, and I thought I'd tell you today a little bit about the process of winding a warp. And that's basically measuring out the yarn that you need in length and width in order to be able to weave a project. So I've already done the math and I know how much yarn I need. And this is a warping board. So I use the warping board, or there are other devices like a warping mill, to measure out my yarn. And if you can see here, I've got this little string on my board, and that little string going across the board is the length of the yarn that I need total to make the towels and to actually like waste some yarn, because you have yarn waste when you weave a project. There's just part of the yarn that you can't weave on the loom. You run out of room. So I have to take all that into account when I make a project. And so that little string tells me, well, I've already figured out that it needs to be 4 yards, and then this is the path that it needs to take on the board for me to get a 4-yard length for my warp. So I just measured out 4 yards, and then I just kind of have to figure out, this warping board is a yard across. I just kind of find a path where the yarn is taut, and up at the top here is where the cross will be, and I'll explain that in a minute. So I'm going to start warping, or winding my warp, and then I will talk a little bit more about that. And I'm back. That took me about 2 hours to wind 400 ends. This is the last bout that I've just finished winding. So you can see here that the yarn is just following the path of the guide string that I showed you earlier. And up here I have counting strings to help me keep track of how many ends I have. They're grouped in 20. And then I'll just take this off and I will put it on my leaf sticks here. You can see I've got 2 bundles already on the leaf sticks. So those are little warp chains, and basically you just crochet those with your hand, which sounds kind of funny, but you know how there's like arm knitting? Well, there's like kind of arm crochet. So these are little crocheted bundles of my warp. So I'm going to do the same thing with the one that I just showed you on my warping board and add it to the leaf sticks here, and I'll have 3 bundles. And my warping board is from a shop on Etsy. I think I'll have to look, I think their name is something like Knit Supply, but the board actually says Fiber Artist Supply on the back, and it's a really nice warping board. Works really well for me. I got it a couple of years ago. Okay.